We were wondering if it was a fraction too early, but clearly not. It's nice to be able to get up and get at them. But a very warm welcome, one and all, to today's introduction to the newly formed People and Culture Association. It's an opportunity for us to introduce you. We launched the website at around about 4:30 p.m. yesterday. So you are the first people to hear about this, and the first opportunity for us to really talk about it, although we've been working under the umbrella of the Institute of Organisational Dynamics, as you know, for some time. The rebrand has been going on over the last month or two, and today's an opportunity for us to pull it all together and share it with you, and also to have a great conversation with you, both as members or as potential members of the PCA, in terms of your needs as modern people and culture professionals. So let's do a few introductions so you know who we are. Some of you may know me already, but if not, my name's David Liddle. I'm the CEO and the Chief Consultant at a wonderful organisation called the TCM Group, where TCM provides conflict resolution services, and that's very much when I set the business up: restorative justice, mediation, conflict resolution. Of course, you haven't got to do many conflict resolutions and working with wonderful people, professionals, to start to ask, why are we doing it this way? Why do we do conflict this way? Why do we do it so badly often? And why is there no clear strategic imperative for driving a more positive, constructive culture in relation to resolving people challenges? And that's really when I started to have conversations with people, professionals, many who were minded to a more fair, just, restorative, constructive, compassionate approach to conflict resolution, which then expands more widely across management practices, leadership behaviours, and of course organisational cultures. And I guess it's fair to say a great many others who were not minded to do this felt very stuck with rigid processes, policies and procedures, and felt that they were the best way of delivering outcomes. I think the evidence is stacking up quite significantly now that that's not necessarily the correct assertion, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But of course, across the last 20 years or so, I've met some wonderful colleagues in HR, in the people profession more widely, leaders, managers, union partners and others who are absolutely committed to doing people and culture better. And what do we mean by that? In a more just, a more fair, inclusive, supportive, sustainable, compassionate, kinder, more person-centred, a more human and humane approach. So we'll tell you a little bit about the PCA, but the PCA is an opportunity to bring all of those people together who share that view of the world of work, who want to create a workplace where we can shine, where we can be the most brilliant versions of ourselves, where the people profession, our managers and leaders, are serving their needs and supporting them to be the most brilliant versions of themselves. So, a big fan of servant leadership and transformational leadership, and we've very much seen those principles starting to move into HR, and it's interesting to see those transformations and shift in HR, where the HR function is increasingly less about creating systems and structures to protect the employer, and systems and structures to enhance and empower and enable our employees to be the best versions of themselves. And of course, anyone who's in the people profession doing this work sees that the needs of the business and the needs of the workforce, when they are convergent and combined, it's that moment that unlocks the incredible potential of us as human beings, of our teams, our project teams, our work teams, our relationships. But probably more importantly, I think this is a really interesting aspect we'll be exploring through the PCA, is as we create that convergence and connect the needs of our people and the needs of the organisation, that creates a very powerful driver of performance, productivity, value. And of course, value, as we know, value measured in terms of shareholder value, of course, profit is key, but also stakeholder value and social value. And we know within the people profession and organisations more widely, we're all really re-examining what does it mean to work in a capitalist Western society, where the only measure of success is no longer the measure of profit, it's the measure of our impact on the planet, on each other, on our communities, on our relationships with others. So the People and Culture Association brings together and aims to bring together the people professionals who I would suggest. Oh, hi. Bye, darling. Have a lovely day at school. It's nice thing. Nice thing about having an early start. So that was my daughter Imogen. Nice to make an appearance. Thanks, Sonia. She is lovely when she wants to be. But thank you for that. Where was I? Yes. So the modern people professional, in some respect, and this is where I think it gets really exciting, because we've often talked about, you know, I know Dave Ulrich really well. He wrote the foreword for my last book, and I know Dave Ulrich is constantly exploring different approaches to thinking about the people and culture function. But we've often talked about this sort of strategic partner and business partner. It's always been a hard concept for me to understand. What does that actually mean? It feels like we're striving towards being something or supporting the business. My experience of working with people professionals is when they are unlocking that potential, that human potential, when they're creating the connection between the business and the employees, when they're facilitating, enabling, empowering, driving, creating, inspiring others to kind of create that connections, when it decouples from the notion of business partnering, which I think personally I'm not a big fan of the term business partnering, when it detaches from business partnering because people are the business. So when it becomes a much more objective, independent function, empowering people to be their best and connecting the business and the workforce, there happens this amazing shift where the people function becomes the strategically most important function of the firm. And if we're talking about those principles of value, social, stakeholder, and shareholder value, and the people function is helping to connect those dots to create value, then at the heart of the value chain within our organizations is the people function. And that's really what the People and Culture Association is about trying to creating an environment where all of us working as people professionals in whatever area that might be, whether it's employee relations, the OD space, L&D, HR, strategy, talent, all of the different strands of HR, pulling them all together with a single, clear, coherent focus on creating an environment, a culture whereby our people can thrive, our people can shine, and they can then help deliver value. And that is very much at the heart of the PCA. It's very much at the heart of what I do through TCM and my wonderful colleagues there. So we'll talk more about that and introduce you to some of those concepts and principles and just the objectives, just the stuff we're trying to do. But before I do that, I'll hand over to Jonathan, who is the coordinator and makes it all happen. So Jonathan, over to you.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday morning. I know it's midweek, but we're so excited to have you here. LinkedIn statistics tell us that there are around 200,000 of us, people and culture professionals. I'm not sure how true that is, but that's exciting. And I think what we are really excited about at the PCA and the People and Culture Association is to go out and look out for all of us there who are pushing this people and culture profession forward. I think this is a really exciting time, and I think we are really interested in knowing how it's all working out for all of us in the profession. David and I have a little slideshow prepared for you just to give you an understanding and orient you with what we hope to achieve through the People and Culture Association. And then we'll probably just do a small breakout room and understand more about what you think is actually is of importance and priority to you as you of course build your careers in this profession. David, over to you. Thank you.
Amazing, Jonathan. Thank you so much. So you've met us. Obviously, it's always difficult when we're doing these kind of events to ask everyone to invite themselves. When we're at a conference, I'd ask you to turn around to your partner and say hello and say good morning. But in the absence of us being in a conference centre and we're on Zoom, if you maybe wanted to just drop into the chat function, who you are, where you're dialing in from, and also your role in the organisation. If you wanted to say, I mean, you don't have to do it straight away, but it'd be also useful over the course of the hour that we've got together to understand where you sit within that sort of people and culture function. What role do you play? And we'll also talk today a little bit more about people's aspirations, goals, hopes, fears, and needs in relation to the emerging people and culture function. It feels to me that the transition from HR to a people and culture function is happening incredibly rapidly. I did as Jonathan said, he looked on LinkedIn and identified over 260,000 roles on LinkedIn with the term people and culture in the job title. And I had a look on LinkedIn jobs. I've been tracking LinkedIn jobs for some time. And over half of all LinkedIn jobs now that relate to HR, classic HR roles, are now incorporating the word people professional or people and culture professional. So it feels like the transition now from the classic HR function to a people and culture function or people profession now is happening significantly. So when the TCM group was very much a conflict management organisation and a mediation business, I set up a body called the Professional Mediators Association. I've always been a passionate advocate of collaborative working, creating connections and creating spaces whereby professionals in their field can come together, engage and support and connect, grow, inspire. And those are the 4 values of the People and Culture Association. It's about connecting with each other and with our organisations, locally and globally, about all of us growing our organisations, growing ourselves, growing our careers, and developing and learning through that period of growth, learning together and growing together, inspiring each other for change and learning from others who have been through this journey. And we've already been running for the last 18 months now, our People and Culture Essentials video cast. You may have watched some of those, being inspired some of the most fantastic, not just thought leaders, although we have had some thought leaders on the People and Culture Essentials webinars, but practitioners, people who are doing this stuff, people who are thinking about this every day as part of BAU, as part of their business as usual, and ultimately creating and co-creating systems, processes, concepts, ideas that helps to move the people profession forward. As the people profession begins to remove itself from those transactional policy, process, procedure, those transactional systems and processes that we've often had, and as people professionals begin to adopt those theoretical frameworks, systems thinking, theory of change, positive psychology, appreciative inquiry, principled negotiation, we're starting to see people professionals having big conversations about big theoretical frameworks that underpin the big transition. And we're starting to see these really exciting ideas. Positive psychology is one that I know many in the people profession are becoming very excited about, creating flow within our relationships for individuals to create a happier workplace. So the language of happiness, of health, of harmony are starting to be seen as the kind of the key drivers. So the People and Culture Association will bring together everyone who's thinking deeply about this, and bring people in and help to share and amplify their voices so we can inspire each other to change. So as a membership think tank, I'll talk a little bit about the membership and how to get involved as members. So it's a membership organisation, and our purpose really is to promote and accelerate the promotion of purpose-driven, values-based and person-centred workplace cultures, which I refer to as a transformational culture. And you may be aware, my latest book is called Transformational Culture, but a real advocate of transformational culture fits into transformational HR. So Perry Timms, who some of you may know, great friend of mine, Perry, he's on the global advisory body or board rather for the PCA. So he talks very much around transformational HR, very much aligning to transformational leadership principles and servant leadership principles, very driven by those approaches. And this function around the PCA and the People and Culture function are slotted into that. You'll also know that a big feature that I see for the emerging People and Culture function is the PCA function operating as a sort of centre of justice. So we'll talk a lot over the course of the next 12, 18, 24 months about how the People and Culture profession can deliver justice in their organisations. And you'll know when I talk about justice, if you've heard me talk, I'm not talking about retributive, adversarial, punitive justice, blame, shame, punish, 51%, investigation, Birchell test, tribunal, pass or fail, adverse outcome or otherwise, but everyone can walk away and go, well, at least we ticked all the boxes to get us through this justice process in a very functional, transactional way. That justice model, that justice paradigm is dead, or at least is dying and withering on the vine. It offers no value, it delivers no good, it creates harm and distress, anxiety, fear. It undermines everything about what it means to be a people professional. And it undermines everything of what it means to be a human being for a great many people. So we'll be actively promoting the concept of restorative justice and transformative justice through the PCA to help people professionals who are wanting to repurpose and rethink and rewire the justice paradigms in our workplaces, away from retribution. Time is up for retribution. It doesn't do any good. It doesn't deliver any value. We'll focus a lot over the course of the 12 and 18 months about thinking about what it means. What does justice mean in our workplace? And how can we deliver justice, whether it's through our workplace relationships or indeed social justice in more widely. So we're based in London. It's a global organisation. We've already had speakers from across the globe. I think we've got 4 or 5 speakers. One from India soon, Jonathan, someone from Brazil. So we've had speakers already from around the world. So that's a little bit about us. I'm going to have a quick look at the chat function. I'm going to break up now. So fantastic. We've got lots of people here from all over the UK, and it's a very warm welcome. Gosh, it's really great to see everyone here. Really interesting to hear all the work that you're doing as well. So I'm going to have a read through that. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Jonathan to just put us into some small groups, probably groups of 3 or 4, Jonathan. And in the groups of 3 or 4, I'm going to ask you 2 simple questions to consider. What do you need as a modern people professional? What do you need to help you to do your job effectively? And what would you need from the People and Culture Association? So what a body such as this, in this very much its formative stages, there's a great opportunity to help shape our strategy and our approach. What would you need this organisation to deliver for you? So what are your needs as a professional doing the work that you do? And what would you need from an organisation such as the PCA if you could shape it and mould it to meet your needs? And of course, that opportunity exists now. So Jonathan, I'll hand over to you. We'll put you into groups. It's only going to be a fairly short conversation, I'm afraid. There will be lots more of these, but I would say around 10 minutes conversation. What do you need, and what do you need from the PCA? If you could focus on those 2 points in the breakout rooms, they've been put into the chat function. And then when we come back, we'll have a conversation, because obviously this is about you as our members or potential members. And I can see Beth as well, Beth Miller as well from De Montfort University. I'm sure I saw you there. Beth as well, a fantastic advocate of all of these areas that we're talking about. And Beth also sits with Perry on the Global Advisory Board, which I will be talking about more, because we are looking for additional people to join the Global Advisory Board of the PCA. But Beth, a very warm welcome to you. I just saw there, welcome from De Montfort University. Jonathan, over to you to break up the breakout rooms.
Thanks, David. We're going to quickly have assigned the breakout rooms manually and automatically, rather, and you will get that invite. As I like doing this in breakout rooms, I'm always searching for a scribe to bring the news back to us, because we are quite a number, and so I think it'll be nice for somebody to summarize the discussions in the group. The 2 very simple questions are in the chat box, as David said. It's about what do you need as a people and culture professional, and what would you need from the People and Culture Association. I am now opening the breakout rooms. Please feel free. You don't have to put your video on. You can continue speaking with your video off, but just let everyone know in your group that you are around, so that they don't feel that they're the only ones in the group because your video is off.
Let's just have the videos on if we can. I just think it makes it a bit more personal, but understood that absolutely you are right if you don't want to, but have a good conversation.
All right, here you go.
I'm not going to join it, Jonathan. I think I'll just stay on and have a read through these chat function. The chat, really good, really good stuff coming in.
I'm just going to monitor the group, so that is somebody in every group.
So Michael and Sarah are still looking like they needed to be allocated.
Yeah, I think I'm going to move Laura to group 3. Okay, so there is somebody in every group. I just had to move one of them away. I'm just going to press.
It's good. I can see you had your cameras on. It's good to see so many faces as well. Welcome. Please do feel free to keep your cameras on if you wish. It is nice to see so many smiling faces as well. But it's obviously entirely up to yourself. But welcome back. I think that was a good conversation. So we began the conversation thinking about what do you need as a sort of modern people professional, and then moved into a conversation about what your needs would be from an organisation such as the PCA. So really keen to hear back from yourselves. And as Jonathan said, if someone maybe was able to take some notes or could could reflect that back in. But rather than me kind of moving around the various groups, if you did take some notes, please feel free to come off mic and share some of the feedback and the reflections from your group. And again, if you don't want to come off mic, that's fine. Or if there's anything that's missed, again, if you drop it in the chat function, we will just make a little note of the meeting and we'll just send it out. So you've got a running list of the needs, the hopes, the expectations. And I guess you could argue it will become part of the strategic framework for the PCA going forward. But Ashley, your hand has shot up. Thank you. So Ashley, without further ado, over to you.
It has indeed. Thank you, David. And well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for organising yet another of these very interesting webinars. So from our group, I'm just going to get my notes so I can see them. So one question that was posed was actually how the PCA might differ from your other initiative, the IOD. Whether this replaces it, whether it goes alongside, I'd be interested to hear about that. But yeah, I mean, basically, there's a sense of the HR industry not really being fit for purpose. And whilst, I mean, it's nice that there are now so many people and culture professionals out there, we wondered whether, they are actually the same HR people doing the same HR job. It's just that we have a trendy new logo. I mean, has there really been a sort of a reevaluation, of the processes and what it means? And we suspected there probably hasn't been. We talked about the CIPD, this sort of mafia that we all have to be part of, but we don't enjoy or like necessarily. And we'd like, so it'd be interesting if the PCA emerged as kind of a thought leadership counterpoint to the CIPD, which seems stuck in its own vibe, and because basically, I mean, and there was a recognition that as HR, particularly people who come from maybe a more psychology background, that you want to transform and you want to have these deep conversations, but you also have to obviously stay compliant, and you also have to ultimately stick to what your business wants you to do. I mean, we may want many things, but we have to fulfill what our leaders expect of us. So I think a lot of possibilities, a lot of great interest, and and looking forward to hearing more about where this particular body, the PCA, might go.
Actually, it sounds like a very, very interesting conversation in your group. So thanks for sharing that. There's always a risk of coming on every question, but it may be just so I don't lose track of things, just come back to it, and also other people may be curious. So I've set up three well, we've got more. We've got Mediation and Resolution Network. I've got Transformational Trailblazers. I'm a bit of a setter-upper, I guess you might say. I set up the Professional Mediators Association back in 2007, which I basically merged into the Civil Mediation Council in 2017. The Institute of Organisational Dynamics, I loved the IOD, but no one really understood what it meant, Ashley. And also the word institute, I think, put people off. It felt exclusive language rather than inclusive language. And organisational dynamics, I knew exactly in my head what organisational dynamics meant. It was a theoretical framework that supported change, strategy, systems, processes in this transition. But you ended up spending more time trying to define the concept of organisational dynamics for people who'd actually trying to talk about what the organisation might do. So we started to talk to HR professionals and people and culture professionals, and they were saying things similar to you were saying, Ashley. I've always had a wonderful relationship with the CIPD, and I've always found them the most fantastic organisation to work with. So I'm not going to offer any thoughts or commentary whatsoever on the CIPD at all. So I won't respond to that particular point. But we're not trying to compete with or replace any one organisation through the PCA. That's not the objective. What people were saying to me, they wanted somewhere to come together and share some of these ideas and insights. They just wanted a space to be able to do that. And that's in essence what we did. So we changed the name. So it's a rebrand of the IOD. So the IOD no longer exists. This is the beta version of the Institute of Organisational Dynamics. And I welcome the opportunity and through to work with all organisations across the UK and globally to promote and further this area of development. But really fascinating conversation. It's stuff that I'm hearing. I'm sure others may be as well. Regularly, but Ashley, thanks for kicking us off. Anyone else like to sort of share thoughts? I did see another hand go up. I think it was Beth. I think it was yours, Beth. So can I come back to you if your hand is still raised?
It is, yes. It is raised. I put it down because I'd have the dog come and join me now. So he was barking at the time. So
You're very welcome, by the way. Very. Oh, there you go. Very welcome.
He's back in, so I'm here now. Yeah, had an interesting conversation with Laura and Nadia. Nadia's joining us from Italy this morning.
Amazing.
And she's part of an international program that still involves the UK, and they're looking at the cultural change management, which involves people and HR. But it was interesting what Laura was saying, that in her organisation at the moment, they're looking since post-COVID, which has changed things dramatically, really, because HR is now seen as less draconian. And more as a proactive people department.
Yeah.
And they're looking at becoming more of a holistic HR and rewarding the right behaviour. So getting the best out of people by rewarding the right behaviour that aligns with the vision and culture. And they were saying that HR are becoming more influential generally. And so it's good for them to set the right impression. And it was really good for me to hear this, because these are the things that we're speaking about to our students. And so it sort of gave me a little bit of a relief when I heard, oh, we are teaching the right things. That's good. And using your transformational culture, David, and that you're managing conflict aligns with really what Laura was saying. So it was an interesting conversation. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, a very warm welcome, Nadia. And it's wonderful to hear those perspectives from colleagues in Italy and hearing about that shift and that direction that I guess we're seeing happening in the UK. We might be seeing further afield as well. I know SHRM puts stuff out, and we see it happening in the States as well. So it's great to hear that. And hopefully, again, Nadia, we can bring together those voices, those experiences from across the world, as well as here in the UK, so we can learn from wonderful people such as yourself and learn about some of the challenges that you're facing and how you're overcoming those. And particularly that point which I think Ashley raised is ultimately, is the HR function there to support leadership? And how does HR, if HR is going through that transition and that transformation, but our leaders are still very rigidly sticking to the more autocratic or functional leadership, transactional leadership styles, how are we opening up those big conversations with our leaders from the people professional to help our leaders on that journey as well? So there's a really big conversation. You could argue the same for other stakeholder groups within our organizations, really building this exciting new social contract in our organizations driven by those transformational principles, as I referenced earlier, their fairness, justice, inclusivity, sustainability, individual and collective performance. So some great stuff. Elizabeth, thank you so much, Beth, for sharing that. And I'm looking forward to, we're talking to some students from the university in Paris as well, I think, soon as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Great. Any other feedback from any other groups or any other reflections that are coming through? Please feel free to come off mic and share them if you wish, or drop those into the chat function if you prefer to do it that way. Louise, thank you. Over to you.
Hi everyone. I'm Lou Wolfenden, so I work at a company called Hollis Global. I'm based in London. We're a commercial building consultancy. And I had a really good chat with Martin, actually. Our backgrounds are completely different, so I think Martin might want to share as well. But I was just saying that I think for me, I want to be at the cutting edge of everything in the people and culture space. And I think that there's an awful lot online on LinkedIn. There are an awful lot of really good books at the moment that share the theory and some of the things that you should be doing. But what I think I'm really missing is that space to talk it through with people who've actually tried this and who can say, we did this, this is what happened, this is something you should look out for, this is a really useful consultant I can link you up with who might be able to help you. So I would really love to have that short sort of I guess group coaching, group mentoring type network. Also because we've launched some really amazing initiatives recently. We've been part of some really good projects. And part of me is just thinking, actually, I'm dying to share this with some other people. I think I could really help some other people by saying, you know, we found this fantastic company who can help with this, or we had we put in a brilliant sort of process around something, and it made a really big difference to our culture. So it's about having that sharing space, I think, for me.
Lou, that's a fantastic, thank you. And that's very much, I mean, that speaks to the very ethos of what the PCA is about. And you've got a really positive feedback from Hannah as well, saying that pretty much reflected the conversation that they were having in their group. But you introduced Martin as well there. So Lou, so a very warm welcome. Thank you very much, Lou. And Martin, did you want to add any of your own thoughts?
I will do, if that's okay. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, David, for letting me come in. Myself and Louise did come from rather different backgrounds. Mine's 30 years policing background, and sort of 20 years of that involved in crisis negotiations in all the sort of guises, both sort of UK and some international stuff as well. The interesting bit that I brought up that we talked about was this concept of organisational justice and where sort of HR professionals fit into that. You know, certainly my experience is that the leadership team from any organisation will set the style and tone, and it's very, very easy to have an organisational justice model which is punitive. Everybody wants someone's head on a spike when they've done something wrong, and it's in some ways a lot easier to effectively wash your hands of people who are suspected of wrongdoing, rather than actually take them braver and more sort of long-term approach of trying to challenge, support and develop their behaviours, for whatever they may be. But we see that play out endlessly in this sort of black and white culture we're in now, where someone's head is needed to be on a spike for every element of wrongdoing. And I think that's the challenge, starting to change that culture. So it truly is more about learning, about exerting influence in the right way, which is some of the skills that I look to bring to this, is about how do we exert influence in scenarios where we've not actually got authority, because that's what crisis negotiators are doing all the time. And I'm trying to bring some of those skills into the sort of more corporate environment now, to show how the transferable element of dealing with crisis, where you haven't got influence, can be used in day-to-day conversations, so that people actually will go down their path because it's their chosen path, but you've sown the seeds for them to go down that route. And it takes time, that, because it's a massive investment in people. So yeah, it was really interesting talking through stuff, Louise, and thanks for the opportunity to come online with this. It's been fascinating.
Amazing, Martin. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, what a great, I mean, this really shows that sort of breadth and depth already. I mean, it's day one. We launched the website 4:30 p.m. yesterday, and already here we are listening from someone from policing and justice talking about experiences of high hostage or crisis negotiation and their intrinsic potential value to us as people, professionals working in organisational change processes. It already sets the tone. I mean, and goodness me, a pound of compassion is well worth so much more than a pound of flesh. Yet we seem to want that pound of flesh without recognizing the intrinsic value of the pound of compassion and how much more valuable that would be if we were able to bring that into our organizations. And we need our leaders, we need people, professionals, unions, other stakeholders to really understand that. And the nice thing about it, Martin, I think, and listening to you speaking, I'm looking forward to bringing you onto a future People and Culture Essentials video cast, so we can start to drill this down. So that note, Jonathan, so we can learn from you, but also helping organizations to recognize there is an intrinsic value. There's still a sense, I think, that the stuff we're talking about here sits in the sort of morally and ethically nice to have box, but the hard business happens over here. That's not always the case. That many organizations are starting to recognize that, but not enough. That the stuff we're talking about here is good business. It's this stuff that resolves those issues of productivity, of performance, of engagement, of absence, of sickness. It's these kind of things. So there's a job of work to be done. I think to your point, Lou, to create those networks and begin to answer the how question, not so much the what and the why, although we will do what and why. I think that's important, and we'll do the evidence to support the what and the why. but we absolutely will look as a practitioner community about the how and sharing experiences of the how, but actually moving beyond the how and focusing then on the kind of the so what, the impact that it has, and starting to connect those dots, just listening to both of you speaking, to say, okay, well, where's the intrinsic value? And if very much at the PCA, the measure of business, we're just putting it out there, the measure of business success in 21st century organizations, as we perceive it, and we're very open to a debate and discourse around this, as social value, stakeholder value, and shareholder value. And it's not about seeing profit as being wrong, or we should be putting people before profit or profit before people. We're not going to get into those kind of equations. We're going to try and re-examine the principles of the value chain and start thinking about, so that's Porter's value chain, you may remember if you've done those at business school. We're going to start to rethink the notion of value in the organization, social value, shareholder value, stakeholder value, and how the conversations that we can have can start to drive value within the organization. And then it becomes a very powerful strategic conversation, moving from the what, the why, the how, the so what, into this becomes a strategic feature of our organizations. And that's where I think we can begin to have very significant impact in the development of kind of contemporary businesses and organizations. But it's part of a big conversation. So we need leaders to be joining us. We need great people like yourself, Martin, who have 30 years experience of actually learning and developing and honing these skills that we can all learn from. I'm really excited about that. Thank you. That's really, really great to hear. Anyone else like to share any observations and thoughts from there? So Sonia, thank you very much. Over to you.
So there's not a whole pile new to add from our discussion, but I guess what stands out really is I was in a group with Hannah, Jonathan, and Michael. And what does stand out is whilst we're all from very different industry sectors, we're all facing similar queries, similar issues in terms of ensuring that either the growth of our organizations, or perhaps in other cases where organizations are faced with having to downsize, it's all about the people and how we make sure that the people have the best possible experience, whether we're looking at DE&I issues, that belonging and cultural awareness, whatever the stage of their relationship with the organization, our roles are about ensuring that from the employee's perspective, that we are doing the best we can by them, whilst obviously having to meet organizational, instructions as such.
It's a really, really important point. And I think, I'm a mediator. First and foremost, I'm a mediator. I often think to myself as a mediator, and you've almost set up a really interesting mediation dynamic there, Sonia, in the way you've described it. And it's almost, for me as a people professional, I feel and I can feel the complexity and the stress and the challenge that our HR colleagues have, and those of us working in that space have, of trying to balance the needs of the organization with these ever-changing complex needs of our workforce. And you talked about some of those factors. I think we could bring in employee activism, social justice into that mix as well, Sonia. And there's this feeling sometimes that you have with HR, is you can feel, if you picture the image of the boy with the fingers in the dam trying to prevent the dam falling, and we keep putting more fingers, and actually what we do is we create little pieces of paper and roll them up and stick them in the holes, and let's call that another procedure, because that will plug that hole and that will plug that hole. But actually when we start to step back and look at it in its whole, Sonia, and I find this when we have these really big conversations in organizations, actually all of the individual needs in that different journey are very similar, combined and convergent. So to an extent, the modern people professional can begin to mediate, and I use mediate in its widest sense of the term mediation, between systemic, structural, institutional, cultural factors that exist within our organization to identify commonality and convergence, common needs, goals, aspirations, hopes, and drawing them together. And rather than seeing those different dynamics in a sort of sense of a duality or a dichotomy or in conflict, with HR trying to manage that space, is zooming out and seeing it as a system and understanding how can we work within the system to bring all of those different elements together. And that's, again, very much using that systems theory of change, which we'll be very significantly majoring on at the PCA to help those conversations and help develop those, but also with Lou's point and other points, very practical application as well. This is not going to lose itself in big theoretical or academic concepts and abstract concepts, but we will go abstract and we will go conceptual, because there's some really important stuff happening that we want to learn from and understand from. But you've set that so clearly, I think, in relation to the challenges.
And I
David.
think this is where this kind of a group can really add some context, isn't it? Because as Hannah has mentioned earlier, we very quickly got to the point where, you know, it's great to have the theory. And I think, Louise, you mentioned great books and great networks, but it's when you actually really start to speak to people who have tried implementing things recently, and you really then come into, you're working with people. And like what they say, you should never work with children or animals because you never know what you're going to get. That's exactly the situation when you're trying to implement things. You think you've designed it perfectly. You've looked at every angle. You've identified everything that could possibly, you know, get a kickback on. And you learn something every time, because you're dealing with people who each individual comes with their own background, their own history, their own experiences, and where they themselves are at that moment in time.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that's really, I mean, that speaks to that ethos of what we're trying to get to, and that real positive engagement. And there's some simple hows do we get there. And I think, because, you know, as I've often said to Sonia, is how do we start there? Is we go and give our people a jolly good listening to. So a lot of what we're trying to get to is how do we build really positive engagement and really hearing and understanding what's going on for people. And it's fascinating. And again, I think we've seen so much rigidity and complexity, so much obviously with COVID more recently, and the shift towards hybrid working, a feeling of a disconnect. And I think you're talking in a very powerful way about human connections, Sonia, and that when we connect at that very human level, it's just amazing, and amazing things can happen. And that's probably, you know, that's why one of our values is connect. I think it's such an important part of helping to develop a successful organization in so many ways. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, we've only just scratched the surface, and Jonathan has prepared a slide deck for today, and I've got the slide deck in front of me, and I've got 3 minutes left, and there's always, I'm not going to just sort of plow through the slide deck, but I must acknowledge, Jonathan, your work on producing the slide deck for today. So I'm just going to share, if it's okay with colleagues. Please do, if we've missed anything, feel free to drop it into the chat function if you wish. I'd love to continue hearing from you. And this is not the end of the conversation. We have our People and Culture Essentials video casts. I know Jonathan has already put some information in there. We're also really keen to hear from you. If you've heard them or listened to them, you know it's quite a relaxed tone. They just go where they need to go. We have some preset questions. You can feed into those questions. But generally, it's just more of a sort of the common parlance now, the fireside chat. That's how they work. So if you'd like to share anything that you're doing, any books that you've enjoyed reading, any activities that you're involved in, or just a general sense of work that you're doing or your experience, please let us know, and we'll tee them up and we'll set up a video cast with you. And I know people will thoroughly enjoy learning and listening from you as you're doing that. The People and Culture Association website went live yesterday, so if you're interested in having a look at the website, it's got more information on it. It's very much in its early stages, but it has quite a bit in there already. So it's peopleprofessionals.org. So that's peopleprofessionals.org. That will take you to the home of the People and Culture Association website. It is a membership organisation, so we are looking for people to join us. Obviously, it requires resource to function. So we are inviting people to join the organisation, but I'm just going to talk through with you really briefly what that means and what it looks like. And we've kept it really simple. There's two membership levels. There's Member Pro, which is an individual membership, and there's Corporate Partner, which is a corporate membership. And then we'll just talk a little bit more about those in a moment. Again, there's some of the theoretical frameworks and models that we'll be majoring on. Why are we focusing on these so much? Well, I just believe passionately, and speaking to so many others, that these are the capabilities that we need in our organizations to help drive value, to make our organizations succeed. So it's naming at the very beginning what those principles, frameworks, values underpin it. It's not to drive the organisation into conceptual or abstract or theoretical thinking, but it's drawing from best practice from areas which I think are widely overlooked. So our values really define us and connect us in an unbreakable bond of connection and growth, inspiration and creativity and co-creation. As we've already heard in the short time we've been here chatting over breakfast this morning. And it's a two-way street. We see the involvement in the People and Culture Association. It's yes, you know, what one joins an organisation to get from it. Naturally, that's important, and the benefits are articulated on the website of why bother. But it's also about giving in and putting into the organisation. And we really want to start this conversation with you as a two-way street. And we've already begun that sharing just in the short time where you've been sharing your ideas, experiences, your vision, your aspiration, your challenges. That's the kind of conversation we want to have. We already have two networks within the People and Culture Association. We have the MAN network, which is the Mediation and Resolution Network. And that exists for anyone who has an interest in mediation and resolution. And we have Transformational Trailblazers, and as the name suggests, that's anyone who's interested in driving transformation. MAN is a practitioner network. There's about 300 members, 400 members already, Jonathan, and these are people who are running their internal resolution frameworks and mediation programs. Transformational Trailblazers, we've got big corporate bodies, we've got the Investors in People, which we're really pleased to have them on it, and loads of others that's more of a strategic kind of body for people who are driving transformational change. So we've already set up two quite big networks, and we'll send information out about how to be part of those. So you can find out more on peopleprofessionals.org. I've mentioned the Member Pro. So Member Pro is £55 per year. And Corporate Partner is £199 per year. If your organisation is a corporate partner, we're offering a 10%, not offering it, it's a 10% discount on Member Pro. So if your organisation becomes a corporate member, anyone from within that organisation who wishes to become an individual member receives a 10% discount on their membership fees. We've got a membership plug-in as part of the website, so we run the sort of membership system through the website, and Jonathan coordinates it, but it's super easy to become a member. The payments are done through the website, and then if you wish to cancel or modify or do anything, it's all set up to run as a pretty well-oiled machine. So again, everything's on the website. But if there's any questions you've got, please Jonathan or I a line, and we'd be very happy to try and answer those. But there's quite a lot on the website about membership. And these are just some of the people, you know, it's not just HR. I mean, clearly HR is a key constituency of the PCA, but it's pretty broad and pretty wide, and we want that to happen. Is crisis negotiator on there? If it's not Martin, it pretty much will be very soon. So, you know, it just gives a nice example. We want it to be inclusive, not exclusive, hence going back to the decision to drop the word institute. And just a few of the events that we've got planned. So the People and Culture Summit, it's going to take us a little while to get ourselves moving, but we will be running an annual summit, and we will be running the People and Culture Awards at the annual summit. We'd like to get something started for this autumn, and I think Jonathan, you've already begun the process of making that happen. It's a big piece of work, so bear with us while we get the first annual summit and annual awards set up. But that's our hope, is to have those this autumn and then running annually, as you would expect. We'll be publishing the People and Culture Review. It'll be essays, but essays in a sort of the modern form of essay writing. But if people want, you know, but we have got academics. We've got a great partnership with Bayes Business School at City of London. They've got students placed with us. We've got one placement now working with us, looking at how theory of change principles are being deployed to support the transition from HR to People and Culture. So if any of you have done anything using theory of change or systems thinking to drive the transition from HR to People and Culture, please let us know, because our Bayes students are desperate to hear from people. And that moves us away from, I can't remember who made the point about maybe it's just a badge or just a rebrand. If you've done this using systems thinking or theory of change to help the transition, please let us know. We'd love to understand how you've done that. So People and Culture Review will be a chance to publish all of this great stuff, from the light-hearted through to perhaps a little bit more heavy on those kind of areas. Pace videocasts, we've already been running them. They started really when Jonathan started, which was a year ago, Jonathan, I think it will take. So they've been running for a full year. So we've already got a catalogue of maybe half a dozen, maybe 20 or more already.
2 dozen.
2 dozen. Wow. Okay. There you go. That happens very quickly. So, and they're great fun. They're just really good fun. And we have some, Jonathan's got a massive network globally. So he reaches into that. And obviously with yourselves joining us, please feel free to do so. Blogs, talk show. We have the Pace talk show. We have blogs. And then I talked about the Mediation and Resolution Network and Transformational Trailblazers. I mean, there's a lot going on for an organisation which has actually been in existence for less than a day. Well, I suppose it is a rebrand, as we know from the IO Day. So there's our details. I know a number of people have had to drop off because you've got busy days ahead. I'm talking at an employment law conference this afternoon, which I'm really excited about. Got around 100 senior employment lawyers and general counsel from really big organisations coming in to talk about the transition away from grievance and discipline into a more progressive model of dispute resolution, which I really can't wait to be in there and listening to some wonderful employment lawyers. So I've got to get into London in a minute. And but if you're interested, that's us. And you can track us down through all the normal means, social media, website. Please do go and have a look at the website. If you see any typos or any problems with it, we'll use this as a bit of crowdsourcing, some fixes as well. So if you see anything that doesn't look or sound quite right, please do let us know, because we'd really value your feedback. And if there's anything that you'd like to see on there, I think someone mentioned books. We'll put a book club up on the PCA website. So just bear with us while we get set up. But for now, I've got no idea what time it is because I haven't got a sight of the clock. So we've probably run over. So apologies if we've run over. Apologies if we had to dive off. But for those of you who've been able to stay, thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. And thank you so much for all of the great insights that you shared following the group work. I think it sets the tone for what we're all here trying to do. But for now, I'm just going to say, have a wonderful rest of the day, a fantastic first day of spring. And let's hope spring springs fairly soon. And Jonathan, as always, as everyone knows, these things never happen by happen chance. They've got people behind the scenes making it work, which was very much you. So Jonathan, to you, a huge thank you for making today happen. So, but for now, I think that's it. Please feel free to use the chat function to leave any ideas, thoughts, feedback, but have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.